Hey, Nikki Sanders here with Nikki Sanders Leadership Consulting. Welcome back to the More Than Social Work with Nikki Sanders YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. Please like, subscribe, share, and I would love to hear your comments at the end of the video. Today, you are going to get 3 career and leadership lessons from a Gen X social worker. That's me. So I am totally Gen X with so many unique Gen X experiences, for better or worse. And of course, that shapes how I navigate the world and how I navigate professional relationships in the world. So if you are a baby boomer, if you are Gen X, and maybe even a millennial social worker, I especially want you to take a listen to this video. So listen, we know about person and environment. So think about that. When we're thinking about our clients, we may think about the person and environment theory, but we often don't think about that when it comes to our staff, our students, our interns, right? But it matters there as well. Now, this is not a blanket statement, end all be all. Of course, there are biases, there are stereotypes, there are all of those things, and no one is a one size fits all for every theory or every experience. But let's look at it generally for a second. And this video is actually sparked by an article that I read recently about Gen Z being hired and fired relatively quickly. Like, employers are complaining that they can't keep Gen Z hired for a variety of reasons. Now, I will say, as a Gen X social worker, I spent probably the last 10, 15 years working with millennial social workers, especially millennial social workers who were fresh out of school, undergraduate and graduate, as an internship supervisor as well as a hiring manager. And truthfully, I love working with new professionals, and also I love working with millennials. Now, here's the truth, Gen Z and baby boomers, the generation before us probably said something similar about us. So what we are saying is Gen Z specifically, a little bit of it is just being young and unaware and not knowing what to do and how to navigate new professional environments. The world is evolving and changing, but history often repeats itself. And so the things that we said about millennials are now saying about Gen Z. The things that we said about millennials, I'm sure baby boomers said about us. We can go through the gamut of the stereotypes, but I want to give you 3 things to consider if you are struggling to work with Gen Z in any capacity, whether they're your students, your staff, your interns, even your children, and you aunties and uncles, this is for you as well. So I want you to think about 3 things when you are dealing with this generation. So 1, thinking about Gen X, because remember, I'm giving you kind of my Gen X experience. So in general, Gen X are hard workers. We weren't always called that. We're hard workers. We were taught to just get things done, to keep it moving. Think about that Energizer bunny, right? And we just kept going and going and going. And now we're all burned out, right? We're burned out, we're exhausted, we are overwhelmed because we weren't good at delegating. It was just easier to do things ourselves than to teach someone else how to do it. And we're paying the price for it today. So that idea that Gen Z is lazy, that they don't want to work, that they don't understand, right? There's some balance in between us overworking and being strong, right? And what that means, and considering this generation lazy or weak. I really do think we need to rethink what weakness and strength really are, because some of the things that we consider strength are the reason that we're exhausted. Some of the things that we consider weak, now we know in terms of emotional intelligence, we needed that release. We needed to be able to cry. We needed to be able to talk about it. We need to be able to let some things go and let somebody else handle it. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater and rethink what strength and weakness are. And let's get rid of this idea that we just have to get it done. So what is the first tip from this Gen X social worker? Being overworked is not a badge of honor. Of course they want to go home when it's time to go home. Of course they don't want to take calls after hours. Of course they want to take their vacation and their paid time off, and they want to take their lunch break. They don't want to skip lunch, and they don't want to eat lunch at their desk. All of those things we did, and we're exhausted. So remember this: number one, being overworked is not a badge of honor. So let's find a balance in all of that. Number two, when we think about multiple generations in the workplace and how we can make a more cohesive workplace, and how we can really support, teach, and train this new generation on what we have as expectations in the workplace, because we created this. Let's be truthful. We had something to do with this. All right. Number two, stop comparing, stop complaining, and start problem solving. It's time to teach and train. We got rid of on-the-job training decades and decades ago. We took trades out of schools and replaced it with everybody needs to go to college decades and decades ago. We have taken so many things away that required young people to use their brain. Everything from tying their shoes and now they're wearing Crocs, to telling time, to remembering phone numbers and addresses and reading maps. And I could go on and on and on with the regular little day-to-day things that have all added up to, we think that this generation does not have problem-solving skills. We think that this generation is not independent enough. We think that just this generation does not take initiative. And why should they have to, when for years and years we gave them everything they needed and they didn't have to figure anything out. They didn't have to problem solve. They didn't have to use those critical thinking skills. So now that we have them at this space and they're young adults, we have to go back to basics, because we didn't give them the basics in the beginning. This is not about blame. This is, here's where we are. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? We are going to onboard, because that is important. We are going to give them realistic expectations. We're going to set up the processes and procedures for them to follow. And then if they really can't do those things, then we can look at what is next. But we have to be very clear about what our expectations are, set them up for success, and make sure that they know that this is what we expect and that those expectations are realistic. And your idea of what's realistic and their idea of what's realistic may not be the same, so you may have to meet somewhere in the middle. And yes, this is going to take more time. Yes, you have to be patient. Yes, you may have to spend a little bit more money than you planned, but the truth is, it's much, it costs more to onboard a new person, especially if you're doing it very regularly. Now, I will say, what I learned years ago is that you want to be slow to hire and quick to fire. So I get it on those ends. There's so many things that you don't want to happen when you have the wrong employee in place. I'm saying we need to stop and make sure that we did everything we needed to do to set them up for success. And if they really aren't the right person for the job, they aren't the right person for the job. If you really can't spend the time to train and give them what they need, that foundation that they may be missing, then I get it. You know, the roles that I was hiring for, you had to be able to hit the ground running. I could not hire someone who was fresh out of school but had no experience. And if that is your reality, believe me, I understand. This is not a blame game. This is, here's how we get past this situation that we're already in. All right, so let's learn to delegate. Let's give them the process, procedures, and expectations. And let's be a little bit more patient when it's realistic to be more patient. The last is, we have to prepare for the future. Prepare ourselves, prepare our companies, and prepare our employees for the future. No longer can we say, well, this is the way it's always been done. We can't do it those ways anymore. So there are some things from the past that we want to keep, and there are some things that we need to let go of if we're going to move together collectively into the future. We don't want to stay stuck. We want to progress. We want to advance. We want to be able to grow and learn. And even at our big ages, there are still things that we need to learn and let go of in all of those pieces. So I am going to employ you to offer a safe place to land. Don't look for, just being punitive when you may actually just need to provide a soft place to land. And then once you have that connection or that relationship, then you can mold and shape the person into the employee that you need and want them to be in order to succeed in your company, in your organization. So I'm asking you to be the change that you want to see. Be the change that you want to see. All right. Yes. So you need to set up a place where you and your employees can thrive. So I'm going to go back again. 3 career and leadership lessons from a Gen X social worker. 1, being overworked is not a badge of honor. 2, stop complaining and start problem solving. And 3, prepare for the future. All right, this is Nikki Sanders with Nikki Sanders Leadership Consulting. Thank you for joining me here on More Than Social Work with Nikki Sanders. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. Check out my other videos on the channel about social work, career development, professional and organizational development. Please leave your comment here. If you have some recommendations on how we can improve our multi-generational workplace, I would love to hear them. Shoot me a question if you have it, and I will see you next video. Take care. Bye.